Hey guys, Ben here from Velflex. Now, one of our questions we get asked all the time when we're doing trade shows and things like that is, do I have to do a pre-press every time for my garments when I'm pressing? Now, guys, just to define what a pre-press is, you have the pre-press, which is onto the fabric of the garment with no transfer, so it's sort of stabilizing the fabric. Then you have the actual press itself, which is your press with the transfer, and then a post press, okay? And that's often after you've peeled the plastic off. So we're talking about the pre-press, the very first one, and do you need to do it on every type of fabric? Well, what a pre-press does is it stabilizes the fabric so that it's ready to accept the transfer. Now, different fabrics behave differently under the heat press, and so it's really important to understand what you're doing for that fabric to stabilize it. So, if I'm looking at a natural cotton t-shirt, right, okay? And the two different types of fabric that I always like to broadly sort of base groups is natural fabrics or synthetics. So we're talking about a t-shirt here. This is a natural cotton t-shirt, and it's not overly heavy. It's sort of quite thin, right? Okay. So it's not going to hold a huge amount of moisture in it, but it will. Do I need to pre-press this? Well, look, if I was pulling this out of the box and it was quite humid, if it felt a little bit damp, that sort of thing, for sure, I'm going to do a pre-press. If it was really creased and I wanted to iron it flat, would I do a pre-press? Yeah, I probably would. Is it necessary? I think for a t-shirt, it depends on the day, the garment, as you've pulled it out of the bag, that sort of thing. Has it been a really wet day? It's raining there and all the t-shirts have sort of absorbed that humidity out of the air, that sort of thing. That's really what's going to define it. Am I doing it all the time? Not necessarily, but if you were wanting to, because you're just starting out, you want to make sure that every shirt is stabilized, every shirt is exactly the same, we'll absolutely do a pre-press, 5 seconds, 6 seconds under the press, okay? That's going to get the heat into the fabric, it's going to stabilize it, ready for you to do your application with the transfer. Cool. Okay, so that's a t-shirt. If we're moving along to something like a hoodie, now let's look at the hoodie. Okay, natural fabric as well. Let's say it's cotton, right? Okay, but it is really thick. Now, a couple of things about hoodies. Hoodies, they hold a lot more moisture. They're a lot denser. Also, because of that denseness of fabric, it takes a lot more energy to heat up. So when you slide it under your heat press, if you weren't to do a pre-press, when you put the transfer down, you might find that it's not enough heat to actually heat up the fabric, the glue, the transfer, and get that really nice bond. So with a hoodie, we always recommend doing a pre-press, okay? One, you're getting that moisture out, which is really important, but two, you're getting the heat into the fabric ready for it to accept the transfer, so the glue's ready to melt behind the transfer and it bonds in. And that makes sure also every press that you do is exactly the same, because if you're stabilizing the fabric first, whether it's the first hoodie or the second or the 50th or the 100th hoodie, they're all going to press exactly the same. So that's really, really important, because the thickness of the hoodie, right? If you're pressing and you have a hot base plate, it's going to take a little bit longer for that heat to get through, but it certainly will heat up the fabric a lot faster and help it heat up faster. If the base plate is cold, it's really going to hold the fabric cold for quite some time during that first press if you're not doing a pre-press, okay? So hoodies, we always do a pre-press, making sure that we get that moisture out of it, ready for the transfer. So moving along to more synthetic products, okay? Things like a polyester shirt, okay? So this is a sports shirt, like your typical activewear sports top, okay? Now, would I be pre-pressing this one? Look, being polyester, it's not holding anywhere near the moisture content of a natural fabric, right? Okay, this is quite thin as well, like it's feels more like a t-shirt sort of thickness, right? It's gonna heat up really quickly. It's not holding the moisture, that sort of thing. I'm certainly not wanting to overcook this or overheat this, because this will heat mark up really quickly if I was to press for too hot, too long. So what I'm not gonna do, I'm not gonna do a pre-press on this, okay? What I'm gonna do is just transfer straight on the top and do an application with the transfer following those instructions. So am I pre-pressing this? No. Why? Because I don't want to overheat it. I don't want it too hot too long, because it'll potentially mark up. And I'm also not too worried about moisture in the actual fabric, that sort of thing, okay? Cool. Now, something else that's synthetic. Nylon. Now this is a nylon bag. Now, obviously it's not holding any moisture. It's gonna heat up really, really quick. All the same sort of properties of that polyester shirt, but nylon like this does need to have a pre-press. And the reason being is the nylon shrinks as soon as it gets under the heat press, okay? So why do we do a pre-press? It's to stabilize this fabric so it's not shrinking under your transfer, but it's shrinking in the pre-press stage. And if any of you have ever experienced your transfer, you place it down on the goods, it's perfectly flat. That plastic of the transfer is perfectly flat. You heat press it, and then the transfer itself, it comes out wavy, like the plastic is wavy before you peel it off. That is a sign that the fabric has shrunk underneath the transfer. And that cockling in that plastic actually is pulling the transfer off your fabric, and you're probably finding that your peeling is really inconsistent. Parts of the letters are lifting, and it's just really difficult to do the application. Certainly not consistent. So if you ever see that, you must be doing a pre-press. Do a pre-press onto the fabric. The fabric will shrink a little bit. You'll see it's perfectly flat across the plate. Slightly off the plate, you'll see it's probably a little bit gathered where it's actually a little bit longer, you know. So you pre-shrink the actual nylon, then you put your transfer down and you do an application. Now, something to think about if you're doing a pre-press is you're doing the first part of the application time because you're getting all of the heat in. So if I'm doing a pre-press, when I put my transfer on, I'm not necessarily doing the full 10 seconds. I'm dropping that down to a 6 or 7 second application. Why? Because I've already done the first 3-4 seconds heating the fabric up, getting it ready for the transfer. So I'm reducing my application time down. So guys, what you need to know is, am I doing a pre-press on every garment? Not necessarily every garment. You got to think about the type of fabric. If it's natural, if it's a thick fabric, a natural like a denim, a hoodie, something like that, then what you're trying to do is get the moisture out of that natural fabric, okay? Trying to stabilize the fabric, ready for the actual transfer to go down, trying to get the heat into it, especially on something thick like a hoodie. On a cotton t-shirt, depends if you feel like it's got moisture in it. If I was heat pressing and I had a hot base plate and I'm sliding my t-shirt onto the plate, then I would be testing first off without a pre-press. And if the application's working perfectly without a pre-press, then I'm comfortable not doing one, okay? Because they don't hold huge amounts of moisture. But if it's got creases in it and you want to iron it flat, then there's nothing wrong with doing a pre-press. Just shorten your application time. Getting onto synthetics like a polyester garment or a nylon bag, okay? I'm pre-pressing the nylon bag because I'm concerned about shrinkage, but I'm not going to be pre-pressing my polyester t-shirt simply because I don't want to overheat it. I don't want to cause too much of a heat mark. What I'm going to do is just do the transfer on over the top and then be doing an application of about 6-7 seconds to apply that transfer, okay? Guys, there's your answer. I know I've only shown you 4 different garments, but just be thinking, is it natural or synthetic? And then is it thick or is it thin? Synthetics, they often shrink or they move under the plate to do with the heat, and natural fabrics holding the moisture, trying to get the moisture out, trying to get those creases out. Guys, hope if you have any other questions, reach out to us and check out the other videos. Cheers, guys.